All right, welcome in. Pittsburgh Steelers getting ready for the Patriots in week 3. How confident are you the Steelers will get the dub here, move to 2-1 at Gillette Stadium Sunday at 1 o'clock? Let's talk about what needs to happen to get the win and what New England does well. Then we'll give you some of the headlines and what the players and analysts are saying here ahead of this week 3 matchup. Here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
All right, welcome in. I'm Gavin Dawson along with New Bear Lesniewski. How the heck you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, man, great freaking day. My karate kid, our oldest, was out on the mats just whooping ass this morning, so I'm fired up, ready to go.
Let's go. How's Pittsburgh feeling, man, after last week's defeat? Are we back to confident there inside the city?
I think they're pissed off. I think they're annoyed. I think they've had enough. I think Pittsburgh is primed for some answers, and this is about as good of a litmus test based on what they've got and figuring out whether we do or do not.
The No Road brought to you by Bet Online, up to $250 in free bets if you use the link in our description. Steelers sitting at -2 if you want to get in on that with the over-under. Thought it was at 44.5 points or so. I think right now it's at 43. So what kind of a game do you expect? Put your answer below. If you think the Steelers are going to win, please consider subscribing. Man, I'm just worried because the Steelers aren't doing a lot well. Like, what is the thing they do well? I don't know if there is a thing other than Aaron Rodgers keeping them in contests. And, I think the 4 touchdowns week 1 was outstanding, but, just all the per play efficiency stuff, it does not look like they're anything resembling a quality football team right now. And after 2 games of getting run all over and not being able to get much of a push, not being able to protect your quarterback, it's hard right now for me to be optimistic. I have been accused of being too cynical.
Yeah, there's 2 trains of thought running pretty much everywhere right now. One crew is basically saying this is an Aaron Rodgers game. This is a game where you put the ball in his hands, you get it out quick, you get up and down, and kind of try to play basketball on grass. And then the other camp is this is a Jaylen Warren game, and we got to find out if he can be Brian Westbrook, Marshall Faulk light. Like pick your favorite, multifaceted running back of all time and plug him in a 20, 22, 25, 28 touch type game. And I think the latter is something that I'm more interested in because it lends to us getting more of the answers that I was talking about from the top. And that if you're going to look at this line and say, what don't we do well? Keep Aaron Rodgers clean. So then you're talking about a very predictable, it's not just quick game. It's like 1, 2, 3 throw, 1, 2, 3 grandma, 1, 2, 3, get down. I mean, it's like that quick. Like his some of the metrics that are out there with him talk about how he's holding the ball and his time to pass is longer than folks, and he's part of the problem. Sure. But at the same time, you can't just run out there and throw bubble and tunnel to DK Metcalf and crew and call it a day, right? Like I think this has to be the week that we see 12 and 13, that we find out if you paid Jaylen Warren correctly.
Yeah, I like the idea of Jaylen Warren. He's been a productive player, but you mentioned DK. I think the average air yards on his targets is 3 yards. Like, you're not able to challenge the defense down the field, and they're just compressing you more and more. Pittsburgh has allowed 12 more first downs to their opponents than they've gotten. And I like the optimism. Maybe it's hopium, maybe it's cope. I don't know, but they're taking time to gel. And I guess on defense, sure, you got some new guys, but if you're going to go from where you are right now to elite, I would be surprised. I think taking time to gel kind of makes sense if you got a bunch of young players, but when you got veteran guys, it's crazy, but sometimes teams just hit a wall and their guys all get old at the same time, and their young guys kind of disappoint. They're flops as far as being stars. They're just placeholder type of starters. And Man, I hate to be this negative just 2 weeks into the season. I really do, because I want to be optimistic. I had an awesome time in the offseason looking at these moves and projecting what it could be. But, sometimes it just doesn't come together, New Bear.
Well, let's talk about, what does it take, 21, 28? How many days does it take to break a habit? If we're 3 weeks into the season, is Cam Newton been, or I keep saying Cam Newton, has Cam Hayward been on the damn treadmill? Is he ready to run? Is he ready to be a bully up front? Because if that doesn't happen and you keep seeing this tape where it's not just Keanu Benton, he's just the easiest one to pick on because it's all the damn time. But there are plenty of plays where you're looking across that line and you're seeing guys not just getting moved off the ball into the linebacker's lap, but getting run on roller skates east and west. And you can't have either one of those things. Like, this has to be the week that we see TJ Watt say enough is enough, Cam Hayward say, I'm back to being a bully, and other guys step up around them and do what they're asked. Like, Juan Thornhill and company, and you can joke about how, some of the reporters have been complaining about how you never get guys to say anything, and then he says, we couldn't hear Acrissure's loud, and some people took that out of context, kind of used it as an excuse, kind of painted him into a corner. And he didn't like that. And now it's going to be even harder to get sound bites. Probably not out of Juan, because remember, he's the one who said we're going to be historic, one of the greatest of all time type defense. So he's still probably going to have plenty to say. But like, as you go through this and you think about what other excuses or what other storylines, what other narratives exist, ain't going to be a problem this week because they get real quiet when Drake Maye gets under center.
Yeah, it's okay. So it's crazy to think that you could really lose to a team that only had 5 wins last year. Seattle was a solid outfit. Things went against you. You had to play in the end zone with Calvin Austin, and then the special teams gaff. And it's like, okay, yeah, you lost, but you could beat that team. And if they lined up 10 times, I think I'd pick the Steelers to beat them 6 times. If you lose to New England, though, that whole idea, whatever is left in the confidence, I think would be in trouble. And, here's what I got. Most sacks in the NFL, they add Milton Williams. Harold Landry can get after you. They have 9 sacks in 2 games. The Packers have let Aaron Rodgers get hit 14 times. I think it's at the top where it's at bare minimum top 3. You've had your 42-year-old quarterback hit 14 times. New England has the most sacks. Now, their pass defense is not good. I think they're giving up 315 yards per game. New Bear, so I'll ask you this question. Do you think the Steelers are going to go out and put up 315 against New England in the air? Over, under?
I would hope, I would actually almost want it to be under, because again, I feel like this has to be a week that you come out and you say, we are going to do our damnedest to forge an identity. And the identity of this team cannot be Aaron Rodgers with 600 plus pass attempts on the year. And this is one of those weeks. Christian Gonzalez is out, right? And I mean, you're talking about a guy who, he's got like Hall of Fame level talent. He can't stay healthy, has had all kinds of problems in his career just being out on the field. So you start talking about, let's forget about any of this, the talk and the bullshit. Forget about any of the excuses on the black and gold side. There's plenty of excuses in the red, white, and blue side. Patriot, what do they call it? Patriot Pat. They're going with the red throwbacks, right? And you go Pat Patriot. You go through everything that they're not going to have, and hell, you got 2 of their guys on your team. You got the playbook in your locker room. Like, you start talking about all the things and all the ways it gets spun. If you go out and don't get the job done, it's going to get ugly fast. And, 315 was a simple question, over, under. If it happens in a game where you're talking about 500 yards of total offense, and this is the breakout game where you get everything together at the same time, but not if it's one of those things where you're walking away and Aaron Rodgers has got 316 yards passing, but Jaylen Warren has 11 touches. Not at the expense of figuring out who you can be toward who you ultimately are going to become as a run-first squad, as a play-action off it over the top.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the path through. If you wanted to build a plan to how do we get optimistic from this point, how do the Steelers save their season, I would have more confidence that a Broderick Jones could be an asset in the run game more than the pass game at this point. You're young, you're athletic, you're strong, you're agile. All those things should lend itself to a good run game. If Arthur Smith can get that drawn up, and I believe in Jaylen Warren. I think on the other side of the ball, we really need Derrick Harmon to get healthy and be disruptive, reset the line of scrimmage, penetrate on runs, hit the quarterback. And then they want Yahya Black. Look into the snap counts. They really want Black to become the nose tackle. And, I feel like he's on his way there. Game 1, I think he was getting his feet wet and maybe that everything was moving fast. Game 2 was better. I think there's a decent chance that by the time we're in October, we're going to feel pretty good about Black.
So thinking about that and thinking about October, November, thinking about the season in totality, the reason why I'm going to double down and be stubborn about running and not having this be an Aaron Rodgers week is because I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is the savior until you're in a moment where you're down in a playoff game and you have to have it. I don't think you get deep in the playoffs. I don't think the Super Bowl stuff goes away and really even making a run goes away. If you're
you saying you think Rodgers is less than maybe what you thought going into week 1?
No. But I'm talking about what this team is and how to get the most out of it. I think Aaron Rodgers has a ton left in the tank. I think he could probably play for 3-4 more years if he wanted to because of the arm talent. It's there. It's a matter of keeping him clean. And what I was going to try to walk my way up to, and I appreciate you with a little nudge about just maybe getting right into it, is just that this cannot be a week-to-week team. This cannot be we're playing Cleveland. This is going to be an Aaron Rodgers week. Oh, we're playing the Bengals. If Joe Burrow's down, we're going to run the ball. Dude, like all the talk about 12-13 and about 0-4 and Hayward's little bro being on the field with no receivers. You did not go address wide receiver 2. You do not have another guy outside to take the pressure off DK Metcalf. Calvin Austin can be a nice piece who can become a 1,000-yard receiver, and you still don't have that answer if you can't run the ball.
Yeah, they got to figure out how to get that thing going to create first downs, because right now there's not a lot of statistical evidence that will have success. So that's kind of where I'm at. Newbear is like, which thing through 2 games is real and which can be sorted out. I would be surprised if this offensive line and Jaylen Warren came together as like a playoff caliber run game.
Well, so what's happened, even with Najee, as frustrated as people were with him, what you would see is something like this, where they were trying to figure it out with a new quarterback, and then the weather would change, and they would commit to the run game, and you'd see an 18, 20, 22 carry game, and you'd see something like 300-yard games out of a 4-game stretch, or you'd see a 80, 85, and 4.5 yards. You'd see them start headbanging to the point where that was the song that was the chorus on repeat. This is who we are. This is who we're going to be. This is how we are going to try to get things done. And that was in the rock fight punt on third down era. Now add Rodgers over the top of that when you figure out how to do that. And I don't even care about, the argument with Arthur Smith and inside and outside zone or pin and pull or whatever you have to do, whatever you have to tweak, whatever you have to bring Calvin Austin in on a fly sweep once or twice, like whatever you have to do to force other teams to respect you is the only way through. And right now they don't respect you when you line up in the gun because they know they can get home, and you haven't put it on tape, and you haven't even really tried to put yourself in a position where you're going to say, here's Mount Washington, and here is our big ugly package. We're going to get after your ass. They just haven't done it.
More Washington, more matchup problems. Right now they're searching for anything other than DK Metcalf to be a factor. I think Calvin Austin's going to be a guy that's going to have a half dozen good football games throughout the year, and you got to live with it when it's not good. Roman Wilson is apparently a nothing burger here. I was discouraged by the way they got Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth involved. Like, these guys are good enough that when the national TV games show up, the commentator should be talking about your 2 tight ends, really 3 tight ends. It should be a big part of this team's identity, and that's not come together yet. It's 2 games in. All right, what else is different with New England here as we continue this matchup preview on the Knoll Road? They added Morgan Moses on 1 tackle. They drafted Will Campbell. They brought in the center Garrett Bradbury, who's not great in protection, but he is an athlete that can get to the second level, cut you in half. And they're really trying to run the ball. I think they ended up passing it 46 times against Miami because the game got weird, but they really are trying to run it with Rhamondre
Stevenson.
Yes. And then Travion Henderson and Antonio Gibson is in there as well. And they're bringing these guys in to keep them fresh. And every time you turn around, it's a different number in the backfield. And they're trying to run on first down and second down. So I think this is a great test. I don't know how much New England's going to want to run Drake Maye. But if I turned on the tape from what the Steelers have done so far, I would be looking to get him 5 or 6 designed runs. I don't think they will, but he's good enough as a runner that if they decide to do that, you could really have your hands full.
Dude, Drake Maye is nice. He's going to be a really good player in this league for a long time. And the thing about him that's really interesting is like he only ran it 4 times week 1, but he ran for 4 first downs in week 2. And when you start looking at double-digit carry games and, QB designed run versus game flow and pass rush and some of that stuff, he has the ability to do both, and he has the ability to hurt you at every level. And he's athletic enough. I think the thumbnail that we're going to have this week actually has him throwing on the run, and there's plenty of tape out there of him being dangerous. And, you like what he's doing because he seems to be playing within himself. And the other name you just mentioned is Derrick Harmon on the other side, because when you're talking about Drake Maye and running, then you got to talk about who's going to go hunt him, who's going to go shut him down, who's going to keep him from being the athlete that he is. And whenever I think about Harmon on the other side, and as excited as I am to have him back as a potential stopgap to this run nonsense that they are having as a problem on defense, is that if he's really not right, I would sit him down for another week because you got lucky. This could have been a catastrophic knee injury. And I think about him for 14, 15 games versus this one, quote unquote, got to have it in week 3. And thinking about him potentially being maybe a little bit iffy, maybe a little bit not trusting playing with the brace because he's been practicing with the brace. And that'll be the telltale thing. If you really trust that knee and he is up for this game, if he's playing with the brace, you're going to be wondering the whole time, does he really believe? Regardless of what the injury report says, regardless of what the doctors have cleared him to do. Because if he comes out there without the brace on, then he's really ready to roll.
Yeah, you got to think about that factor, the health, and be careful. You don't want to have any sort of setback with Harmon. And then I wanted to ask you, it's really hurting to not have Deshaun Elliott in right now. How much would an expanded role for Jabril Peppers and, how much can Bentley help fix this? I think, unfortunately, just taking Wilson off the field in obvious run situations is addition by subtraction. I think Bentley's a pretty good player, too.
Bentley is a really good player. Man, we talked about this a lot last time. I'm not going to belabor any of the points, but just, big, strong, sturdy, just a thumper and a guy who means it. There's some guys who make a lot of tackles. You could tell that they're just out there collecting that paycheck and trying to keep their job. They're not putting their face. They're not coming with bad intentions. Bentley's one of them. And when I think about Bentley and I think about Peppers, Peppers obviously going to be more ready to go, having been there for longer. But, even if Bentley's only been there for a few weeks, it doesn't take much to say, we're going to play you these 20 plays because we think we're going to get these 3 looks, and here's what you're going to do. And maybe he doesn't even whiff a second and long or any third downs unless it's, 3rd and 4th and inches. But either one of those or both of those guys playing, it's the same damn thing that we're talking about them feeding Jaylen Warren and having his Brian Westbrook moment, that we're talking about putting this O-line and putting Mount Washington in a position to go play bully ball the same way that I am demanding that Cam gets his head out of his ass, is that Jabril Peppers and Bentley, Juwan Bentley, are going to play downhill. They are going to hurt you, or they are going to hurt themselves trying to do so. And all we've seen for the first 2 weeks is dude catching, getting plastered, one fullback taking out 2 inside linebackers, stuff that just cannot happen at this level. So the one thing that I'm going to be really excited to see, if it's Peppers and Bentley, is exactly what those 2 dudes are out there to do.
Yeah, and they're going to need that as long as they're not getting the defensive line play. I think Hayward took a step in the right direction last week. I think game 3 is going to be better. It's unfortunate that he missed the preseason.
Not unfortunate. I'm not letting you get off with that one. It's not unfortunate. Team
Oh,
could
you know
have
how I
ordered.
feel about holdouts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah. To not be able to show up and play better after holding out and demanding more money. It's
yeah, like
embarrassing.
when TJ did it, and when TJ showed up, and he's game wrecking people, and now we have to hear about how TJ is washed because you keep getting washed out. Stop it. Like,
Yeah.
come correct in week 3 and remind us who you are.
Yeah, and I think they need to get answers here at defensive tackle or at nose tackle. But the main problem with this team right now is that there are so many holes on this team. I don't know what the biggest one is. And it does feel like at least 2 weeks in, we're more likely headed for a massive rebuild than a team going on a massive playoff run. If I had to pick one of those two extremes.
The good news is they got 12 picks and a ton of cap room, and they can walk away from a lot of guys, and it won't cost them a ton of dead cap and all of those things.
But look at this. I mean, they're even the worst in missed tackles. They do nothing well for winning football so far.
I was saying that kind of tongue in cheek, and I'm going to get off my soapbox a little bit and stop being so damn mean to these guys getting paid millions of dollars to be soft as Sharman.
It's very nice of you.
I'm going to come back to just try to reality check, meet in the middle of emotion versus expectation, in as much as the hole on this team is wide receiver 2. That is the hole on this team. The offensive line is not supposed to be a hole. There's something wrong with Broderick Jones. He's not using his hands. Like, his stance. Have you seen the side-by-sides of his stance at Georgia versus his stance with the Pittsburgh Steelers? He looks like something is broken in this dude's brain because they were trying to teach him some kind of technique, or maybe the switch to the right side and how they were trying to unbleep something that he was struggling with, over the course of the past 2 years. But when you see this, what is that? You got it up on the screen now. Like, look at wide base. I'm here to maul dudes. I'm here to step in the bucket and run and put dudes on the steering wheel. And so everything about him is different than the reason you went and got that. He looks weird. Like, there's no other way to explain that somebody at some time started trying to rebuild this dude. Like, you're talking about rebuilding this team if it doesn't get right. They need to just get him punching and using his damn hands. And I think part of the problem with him is he has had no success as a pro. And so when you talk about confidence, and then now we're still talking about technique, the way that you saw how he barely touched that dude and you shoved him to the ground. Like, what is in this guy is the same kind of explosive athleticism that was in George Pickens without all the crazy. If you remember, when Pickens was losing his damn mind, Broderick Jones was often the guy with his arm around him on the sidelines, talking him back to planet Earth. This is a good kid with a ton of talent. And I'm tired of everyone talking about how he can't play when you're asking him to do that. I see him in Mount Washington and the giant with the hair bossing dudes. And let's bring 54, the third best center in the league, into the mix too. And if it's anything but that, I might just show up and go full Stephen A. Smith next week.
You can't get mad at the people who are pointing out that he's playing poorly, though.
No, I'm not mad. He's not playing well. But what I'm saying to you is, we're talking about a professional offensive lineman, a first-round draft pick that you traded up to go get, with all these traits and all this talent, who was a champion coming out, who came through the Pittsburgh International Airport in flip-flops, and we said, it's on like Donkey Kong. This is the left tackle for the next 10 years. We're going back to the days of Pouncey and DeCastro and, all the guys who kept Ben clean and allowed him to play, magician with the pump fake. This was that. And then from day one, we mess with this kid. So why don't we just put him down in a 3-point, not put him down like a dog, but put him down in a 3-point stance and let him go hunt and put dudes on their back? Because you can't walk away from this kid while there's been no catastrophic injury. There have been injuries, but it's not like this running back who blew out his knee and had the Holy Trinity Bermuda Triangle and is never going to be the same. This is all manageable stuff that everyone deals with. Manage this kid and put him in a position to have the confidence to go in week to week saying, I'm him.
Man, sometimes you can't play, and that's why you're not confident. And that's what I would say to that. But I will acknowledge, like you can get a bad O-line coach and he's trying to change your hands. He's trying to change a bunch of stuff and it just doesn't work for you and you need to go back to what you were good at. But I mean, let's give the organization a little bit of credit for, likely thinking of anything they possibly can. At some point, you got to be able to play it. If it's year 3 and you can't play, you probably can't play. Like, it's hard.
At some point, though, you have to stop thinking. Like,
right.
I would put this dude's tape on against Georgia and Tennessee where he is putting other All-Americans in the dirt.
I mean, yeah, but that's different. I mean, there's tons of All-Americans in college that can't play in the NFL.
Yeah, but not at places like Georgia. Not at places like Georgia where the defensive line that you're going against every day in practice has got Jalen Carter and company. Like, all I'm saying is that this dude came from a place where he was one of those dudes. And all he's been in the black and gold is a miss to the point where if he doesn't get right in a few weeks, he's a bust. That's like shame on someone in addition to the kid. And all I'm saying is the only way we find out. And look, I mean, like Zach Frazier's a mauler too. McCormick and Fatanu, like the athleticism, like you have the ability with the height, weight, speed, bench press, squat rack. You got to translate it. Spatial awareness. You're right. And I'm not trying to shout you down from the soapbox. All I'm saying is that
I'm just trying to help you, man. I mean, you're caping for a bad player right now. And there's no reason to believe he's going to turn it around.
But he is your tackle right now in 2025. And so what I'm saying is if you want to win with this team right now, you have to stop pretending that he's not a turnstile. So I'm trying to do it through a lens of let's be positive and fix this kid and have this be a long-term solution. Let's just make it about 2025. If he doesn't road great, he can't play. So then you got to take him off or you got to go trade for someone else. And I don't want to have this conversation when this dude who's sitting here could have something unlockable inside him.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to look at is this turning into a developmental year? And if that's the case, then just leave him out there, try to turn down the criticism and see if he can get comfortable. Because sometimes it's a journey. Like here in Dallas, we have Solomon Thomas, 3rd overall pick of the Niners a decade ago, was not a great player for a long time, finds the right defensive line coach with the New York Jets and Aaron Whitecotton, became a really good player the last 2 years, and now is one of the best defensive linemen through 2 weeks in the NFL season when it comes to stopping the run, which is something he never did, so it is possible. And if you're not, having a big go for a year, I think there's plenty of time to be patient with him and kind of hope for, him developing into at least a solid guy. And the offensive lineman can take a while. I mean, you go from being a big and athletic, and that's enough. And then all of a sudden you're going up against guys that have been in the league for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, who have been in the weight room, have become significantly stronger and better and smarter. And you're like fresh fish, dude. They see you coming a mile away.
Here's the last thing I'm going to say about this, and then I might not even speak on it for the rest of the year, especially if it doesn't change this week. When you just said in Dallas, we have Solomon Thomas. In Dallas, you also have Tyler Guyton, who was beyond a turnstile, way worse than Broderick Jones last year, who right now looks like he's on his way to being a very good player. It is the same type of conversation when you talk about coaching and details and technique, because what they did with Tyler Guyton is what you just said. They got him in the weight room. They got him in the film room. They turned him into a man as opposed to a fat guy, and now he's playing like he belongs in the league. Broderick Jones has none of those problems. All of a sudden, Broderick Jones doesn't know how to use his hands. Jake Paul would beat Broderick Jones in a fist fight right now if we were playing tackle football. He's using his hands that little. That's how bad his hands are. That is either a broken brain where the player can't play, or that's a coaching thing that has got this kid so far down on himself that he just can't do what he's been trained to do and what he's done naturally his whole life, which is get in the way and be a problem for anyone trying to get to his quarterback.
I mean, it's just 3 steps in a punch, man. Figure it out. Up next here on the Knoll Road, we go to the Friday injury report. And we got 4 out. We got Porter, we got Elliott, we got Highsmith, and Sharping. Of course, he's going to be out for the season now, unfortunately. Yeah. Derrick Harmon listed as questionable. For the Pats, you got Christian Gonzalez out, and then a couple of depth players, Westover and White, are questionable. But that's a big out for them with Christian Gonzalez. How much of a factor do you think this plays, New Bear?
So I was going to say something, and then I just talked myself out of it earlier, where I said, with Christian Gonzalez being down, why am I so hard up about the running game? And it's because I want the identity established so that it's not about 315 yards. It's about the devastation of the big play in the play action passing game. Because I truly believe if they don't figure out how to run the ball, they have no chance. This is not a team that is good enough protecting Aaron Rodgers or with the weapons around him to be a team that can come out and throw it 40 plus times a game and have that be okay. So what if, though, with Christian Gonzalez being out, what if this was one of those vintage Devontae Adams turn back the clock Green Bay Packers games where it's like 13, 14 catches on 21, 22 targets, and we see DK Metcalf set a fantasy football record. And then people are just going to say, well, they'll just double him, and that can't happen because they don't have anyone else to win. So my only thought about Christian Gonzalez is if they force feed back shoulder vintage Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams type thing, that is the only way that I see this. Otherwise, I don't even care. Otherwise, I don't even care play any corners and they throw any passes. I would like to see this be the most old school black and white, no questions asked type of performance from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That would be awesome. All right, up next here on the Knoll Road, whose explanation / excuse for the defensive performance against Seattle do you like the most or are annoyed by the most? Peyton Wilson saying, no, this is Juan Thornhill talking about the noise. You can't hear anything. He saw what I was trying to signal. We have to get to the point where we don't have to verbally communicate. Then you got your guy Patrick Queen that you alluded to earlier. Thinks because the Steelers have so many playmakers on defense, they've gotten too comfortable. That was funny to me. We're too good, man. Too lackadaisical thinking somebody else is going to clean this up like we got this on easy mode.
Did you see what Ryan Clark said about how they handled Yankee-type deep crossers when LeBeau was there? They called it zombie, and basically what Ryan Clark was saying is you have to make the cut call before the play. You have to know what you're doing, and it just has to be ingrained. And when Ryan Clark, when this starts getting retweeted and going around, and they start showing old clips and people are clamoring for can we just clone or reincarnate Dick LeBeau? And on these clips, on all of them, what you're seeing is corners and safeties flying around. The hardest thing about getting beat the same way multiple times in a row by inferior opponents, by guys who are literally doing it for the first time in their career. Hey, here's your first touchdown against this future Hall of Famer. They're not flying around. They're thinking, they're not communicating, they're not hearing stuff, they're not seeing stuff. So they're guessing at best, they're late at best. The best case scenario is if it's not a touchdown, it's still a big play. And if we're sitting here like you talked about, they're not rookies, right? They might be new, but they're veterans. How hard is this shit, especially when we're talking about how during the week they practiced it?
Yeah. I think what you're talking about to me just kind of points the finger at the coaching staff, and it is interesting to me. There's always a level of noise about a head coach, but I'm hearing it now louder, more consistently, and from deeper sources, that maybe the organization could benefit from a changing of the guard. And maybe a season like this where expectations are through the roof, not because of Aaron Rodgers, but because of how talented and good the defense is, that if it goes tees up, if you are a guy that would rather have a different coach, maybe you lost here and many more for the rest of the season is exactly what the organization could benefit from. What do you think of that crazy idea, New Bear?
Well, there's 200 million reasons if you include his contract over the $178 million defense. So that's a great point. It's not about Aaron Rodgers. It's about having the league's most expensive defense, being a defensive coach, being a defensive mastermind, and just not getting the job done. And, I threw something up into the stream this week where there was a lot of math going around, and I was like, the math doesn't math, because you can Tyrell Austin and Mike Tomlin together, and their EPA rankings, their yards per game, all these rankings are like pretty good. And then what I added to the conversation was, 28 points and it could have been 100, hashtag Ravens flock, 31 and it could have been 50, hashtag Bills Mafia. And then let's go through Chiefs Kingdom, the Dog Pound, Duval, and the Patriots. 42, 48, 45, 36. So in those last 6 playoff losses, they're giving up 38.3. Like what? And by the way, that's with Lamar taking it easy on you and taking the foot off the gas. That's with Josh Allen 21ing you and then laughing their way into letting you come back with Mason Rudolph for like 5 minutes. Like 38.3, dude. And
that's a lot. We're
talking about loss after loss after loss, and not just agonizingly, not just like Blake Bortles. If it was just Blake Bortles, that would be enough, where TJ Weldon is the leading receiver with like 3 catches for 28 yards or something ridiculous. The fact that it happens with Baker Mayfield coming into your building and the Cleveland Browns, every way that you could script it, Mahomes doing Mahomes stuff, like in a game, TJ Watt comes out and peanut punches and you get a defensive touchdown. And you hold on. Could Mike Tomlin, the genius, be back? And then you just 299 yards to King Henry and Lamar. And you just laid down to the point where Herbie was asking where the fight was from this team. So my big thing is that if you're going to be stubborn to the point of willful ignorance, and you're going to come out and you're going to say things like, we don't think very much needs to change, and you're going to say we couldn't make in-game changes because guys were tired and guys were hurt. Well, now we're in week 3, and just about everyone's going to be out there, and you got some fresh legs and some fresh faces and some guys who are basically being plugged in. Bentley signing is an admittance that you let Landon Roberts walk out the door and you were wrong. You're admitting mistakes.
Yes.
Checks that you're going to write.
I was going to ask you that actually today. That was a significant mistake. Hopefully Bentley can play as well as Roberts did. They're pretty similar players, aren't they?
I mean, let's go back through a guy who's going to be on the other sideline. Robert Spillane wasn't good enough to play for you for a couple $1 million a year. You let him walk because you didn't need him. All he did was put up 300 freaking tackles for the past 2 years with 3 picks and 3.5 sacks. You look at Zach Bond's numbers and he's at All-Pro 1. Robert Spillane's right there with him, number for number. He just doesn't have the wins. And you guys just didn't think he was that good. So, like, when you start looking back over, what was the simple question you asked about what player versus what player?
I don't know.
You talking about Bentley Verby? Was that it skipped for a minute. Right before I went off on Spillane. Landon Roberts was a really, 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 really awesome dude because he just knew exactly what he was and he loved it. And he loved to just be that guy to go in there and break face masks. And Bentley is he's built the exact same way. And when you look at this, look, here's the thing.
The crazy thing about these guys, New Bear, is they're cheap. There's no excuse for any NFL team to just let one of these guys go that could get you 90, 110 tackles and really help stop the other team's run. Like, I think they have a distorted reality about how important it is for linebackers to be able to cover.
Well, there's some Devin Bush scar tissue involved in that. And at the same time, I mean, what you talked about the Cowboys earlier? What did they pay Kenneth Murray?
Kenneth Murray, $7 million.
Yeah,
that's the biggest mistake I think mentioned so far.
And so I think people talk about how safety is so devalued because you can just get one of those guys for cheap, and that's why we need to be okay with Minka moving. And the inside linebacker has become the same thing because it's such a hybrid big nickel, spread league and passing. But you've talked about the return to the run game. You've talked about, we're seeing fullbacks. John Gruden's happy as a pig in shit. And last week, what did the Seattle Seahawks do with it? They had a fullback take out both our inside linebackers on one play. So the thing that's so interesting about this league now is that it's more multiple than it's ever been before because you're starting to see a return to some of the Stone Age stuff where you go dot the I, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then on the very next play, you're in 5 wide because you can change and you can move. And some of that stuff is smoke and mirrors because you're putting a fullback out there at an X or a Z, and then he motions back in to be the personal protector or the wing. But a lot of times these teams are scripting that stuff so well that it's not even about the player versatility of a fullback being an H-back, being a move Y, whatever the case may be. It's really more about these teams saying, okay, if we're keeping 5 wide receivers, how many plays are they going to be on the same field together, and how quickly can we go from a fullback, from a power ISO situation to a 3-yard or to a 3-step, quick hitter thing, to the point where, Jalen Ramsey, we called it out in the last pod that we did, where he's playing off coverage, he's got outside leverage, and then he releases outside, and JSN just kind of fits in there. I mean, the previous play or two, they were in the freaking I formation. So it's really neat to see some of these other teams continuing to evolve, even if that means going back in time.
All right. Our final portion of the Knoll Road. Let's look at the wagering odds against the spread over under, and I want your official prediction. Here on Bet Online right now, you got the Steelers -2. The money line -132. The Patriots are at +112. That's kind of a no bet to me. I mean, I don't like betting against the team that I want to win, and I want to see the Steelers win this game. If I was going to bet it, if I was totally neutral, I would take New England. I think they can win this game outright. I don't think there's enough value on the money line to play the Patriots on the money line. The over under, I wouldn't want to really go at any of those, but I don't think you can handle New England's pass rush, and I don't think you can run it against their front. I think you have a decent chance of slowing down their offense. But I mean, you look at Booty and Diggs and these running backs, they still have the 2 tight ends. This is this is a very solid group of physical football skill players there for Drake Maye and this offense. So, with seeing the Steelers as kind of soft and not very physical, I just think this is a bad matchup here, week 3. I got bad vibes going on with it, New Bear. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I very much like you. I want to say this is going to be the game where Jaylen Warren gets those touches, or, it was the Batman and Robin thing we thought we were going to get with Caleb Johnson and Jaylen Warren. I want to say this is the game that TJ Watt comes. I want to sit on my couch and be really happy and excited, but I can't sit here and say stubborn to the point of willful ignorance and just think they're going to snap their fingers and come out and do the damn thing. Booty is a guy who fell in draft classes because he basically trying to fight Brian Kelly at LSU. And Diggs looks like he's back for all intents and purposes. He looks like Stephon Diggs. And what I'm most concerned about is we play Bentley on 1st and 2nd down because Peyton Wilson, won't put his face in the fan. And now all of a sudden Henderson's out there catching a swing screen and taking it 80 yards to the house. What I'm the most concerned about is anything that they try to do being at the wrong time with the wrong type, and running away from TJ and other guys not stepping up. I mean, what do you have to buy into? Why would you believe that Keanu Benton's going to hold his ground or that Cam's going to be fit? Why would, if Derrick Harmon is nursing that knee? So, I want to very badly say Steelers no matter what, but I also don't want to be willfully ignorant.
Well, thank you for that, sir. Appreciate it. We'll be back Monday with instant reactions, then midweek with film room takeaways. As always, the Knoll Road brought to you by Bet Online. Link in the description for up to $250 in free bets, fastest payouts guaranteed, unmatched integrity. Ride with us all season long. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell button so you never miss when we upload or go live. Till next time, we'll see you on